Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Going Off Track podcast. I'm Kathryn, and that's Emily, because Emily's back.
I'm back. I know it's been like a year. It seriously, I was trying to think like when was the last time I recorded. I've just been having, Paul help and step in. I've had an insane work schedule for my actual full-time job. So it's been a little hard to sneak away and record when you're working very late and crazy hours. So Kathryn has been so gracious and found someone to fill in for me, which has been sad, but also nice that we have friends of the pod willing to step in. So thank you.
Yeah, no, it has been, and honestly, I mean, the real big thing that you missed, of course, was what happened after Vegas, which everyone, I mean, you probably would have been asleep anyway when the news broke. I know your sleeping habits. You would have been asleep and I would have been awake being like, oh, I'm going to have so many texts for Emily when she wakes up in the morning, which you had anyway because I was texting you.
Yeah, no, it was wild. And I just, I saw the race end and I was like going to bed, like so tired, so exhausted. I was like, okay, race is over. Done. I literally fell asleep maybe 5 minutes after the race ended. And then I wake up and I'm like, what? What is going on? This is insane. But yeah, no, we started texting right away and I was just like, oh my God, this is absolute crazy pants.
Yeah, no, it was wild. I was texting you. I was texting Adam, who is in your neck of the woods now. And he was definitely also not awake. So I was like, here's 18 text messages for you to wake up to. And also I was texting my dad and he was also definitely asleep, even though he was in California, which is an hour behind. But that was, I mean, you know that McLaren wants to do anything that they can to secure both championships and of course secure it for Lando, and they got and I also just read today that they were very close to also getting disqualified for the same thing in Sao Paulo.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, so here's the thing. This skid plate to me, like, I understand it, right? It's a regulation.
Yeah.
But there's only so much you can do to control that. Like, I feel like some of it is the track, right? Like, the manhole covers in Vegas. Like, maybe they stick up a little bit more than they should, and that affects it. You know what I mean? So, like, when they get disqualified for that, it's kind of, to me, a cheap shot or, like, something that's, like, I get it. I 100% understand the DQs. It has to be a certain, like, whatever. But again, it goes back to the argument of, like, what's a millimeter here and a millimeter there? You know what I mean? Like, is it really going to make that much of a difference?
I mean, apparently they have, as somebody who is not a physicist and who does not have the brain of understanding, I know how downforce works a little bit, and I know that the lower that you are to the ground, the faster your car goes. But somebody who has a better technological brain than I do, and far better understanding of physics, because I stopped taking physics in high school, it's if you're out of that millimeter, you're screwed. And they were screwed.
You know how big a millimeter is, Kathryn? It's like not even this. Like, it's so...
I know.
I don't know. I understand it. Again, I respect the rules. I understand regulation. But it's like, if you're going to go out swinging. Like, have your...
And they are.
Totally out of, compliance or whatever. But, just for a little thing like that, I can understand how McLaren would be super frustrated, because again, what if they designed it and everything was there, and then just because of the track and the manhole covers and whatever, I want to know how many other cars are out of range too, based on the track. But I know they don't test all the cars, and I'm not sitting here trying to defend Zach Brown. I don't want it to come across that way at all. But you know what I mean, how it's like, when we're talking millimeters, it's hard. It's hard for me to,
Yeah, and to the other side of it, like alongside it is like, this is a sport that does go to the millimeter, to the gram, like the same reason why we get so frustrated at the beginning of every season with the liveries, because the liveries are all like a black car with a smattering of vinyl, and then finally they're like, okay, we're gonna make the cars pretty now. And so like it's really they're playing to the absolute edge, and it's like, what I said to Paul in the last episode talking about Ferrari, where Ferrari likes to engineer themselves in the gray areas. And every time there's a new technical directive that like shuts down a loophole, they're like scrambling. And like all the teams do this. And this was just McLaren's time to get got for going, as close to the edge as possible.
Yeah. I guess we have to respect the rules, but it's annoying. I mean, if this happened to Ferrari or if this happened to even Max, I would say the same thing. Like, I'd even be more upset, obviously. I think
we did have this conversation when this happened to Lewis in February. And yeah.
Or whatever it happened, because last year this happened too, the skid plate in Coda, right? Yeah.
It was 2 years ago, but yeah, it was the skid plates for the two of them for Lewis and Charles when they were on separate teams. And then it happened a second time to Lewis when he was on Ferrari, and then Charles got disqualified in China for other reasons. So yes. It's just kind of ridiculous.
It is. But yeah, again, like I would like to know how much of it is actually engineering and how much of it is like because the track isn't like in the best condition or whatever. But anyways, I digress.
I mean, but that's fair. Like there were many drivers who have discussed how like it is not a great track, and it's not a great track because it's a street that's driven on every day, and also the day of race day by lots of cars.
Which is wild that they have cars driving on race day.
Right. Yeah. The whole fact that like they do open Las Vegas Boulevard on the entire race weekend, it's mad. Like I get it, but it's also just maddening to me.
Yeah, and we're like, well, we have to because that's how this works. It's like then maybe don't have a race there.
Bingo. Let's move the track elsewhere. Keep it in Vegas if you must. Elsewhere.
I want to see a Chicago street race over Vegas.
Yeah. I mean, you have a lot more flexibility when you're not, because like Vegas is just like if you're doing a street race in Vegas, it has to go down the strip. You don't have that same restriction in Chicago or like literally Chicago, New York, anywhere. New York would probably be a stretch, but like I think it would be different, and I think that we would like it more if it was not in Vegas.
It also doesn't have to be a night race, so it doesn't have to be super late on Saturday to be convenient for the rest of the world. But hey.
Also that.
It's okay. It's fine.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, happy to be back for the last two races. I will be back for the last two races. Over my dead body, I will be back for the last two races.
Yeah. And speaking of the last two races, once we get through these last two races, we are going to have some upper management changes at Aston Martin that I'm actually really kind of surprised by.
It's so dumb. I hate it. It's stupid. He's not a team principal.
Right.
And if you don't know who we're talking about Mr. Adrian Newey, who left Red Bull last year, has joined Aston Martin, is really just working on their 2026 car. He has not touched 2025. It's been made very apparent and very clear by everyone at Aston Martin. He is not touching this car, working toward 2026, which is very typical. But now it's come out that he's not only like their head engineer or whatever, their knight in shining armor, if you will, but he's also their team principal, which I don't get this move at all.
I can joke and say that like he's so desperate to not want to work with Christian Horner again that he's like, fine, I'll do it. But I really think that to be honest, Lawrence Stroll has run out of people within the sport that he can just dispose like tissue paper and just like throw in the role and be dissatisfied and throw out. And like Adrian Newey is one of maybe 4 people in the entirety of Formula One that he can't just be like, I'm not happy with you, you're fired.
No, yeah. And so the other thing in the back of my mind, right, always thinking money and contracts. Right. If he essentially holds 2 positions of overseeing all engineering and team principal, he can get paid a lot more money. and he can be, you know, they can just keep shoveling money towards him to hold 2 positions. They save money within the budget cap because the top 3 people don't hit your budget cap. And like essentially he holds it in title but not actuality. And so he has other people making decisions for him, which like obviously that's how a TP works, right? They're the boss, the big boss. Other people give him information, whatever. He ultimately is the deciding factor and makes the decisions. But maybe it's more of like a formality. That's just like what I'm thinking of, maybe why he's being announced as team principal as really just a formality. But I think that really opens him up to more criticism and the potential to be fired much easier than, you know, overseeing all of their engineering. So I think it's an interesting move, but I think maybe it's strategic with money and trying to get him more money to get him to commit to stay longer. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's very much like, I feel like it's definitely out of the box, not just to say that he can't do it as, you know, the lead engineer and he has the experience, and unlike Flavio Briatore probably has the credentials to be a team principal, but which for the record Flavio doesn't, which is why when he was acting team principal at Alpine for a while he really wasn't, which was just funny. But it's just
acting team lead super advisor or whatever dumb title,
right? But it feels like it, like I feel like he has better stuff to do than to go and to answer to the FIA for when Lance Stroll hits 4 cars on the opening lap.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's weird, but maybe they know something that we don't know over there. Maybe he was, you know, the girls were fighting and now he's just become the boss so no one can fight with him and he gets to make, you know, all the decisions. I don't know, but I think it's really interesting. I think it's an interesting move. I mean, obviously, it's a podcast that only talks about the year that is.
We'll see.
But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I don't think it's gonna work. I predict around Spa next year, he's stepping down as team principal and someone else will be team principal, but he'll stay on as head engineer.
Yeah, it's definitely out of the box thinking, which is something that I think Aston Martin can stand to do. Obviously, the one glaring thing that we all know Aston Martin needs to do is replace Lance Stroll. But, I mean, we'll see. And then Andy Cowell, who was the CEO and team principal, has moved to the chief strategy officer, and he's basically going to be working with the team and the team's major sponsors and to, you know, coordinate with strategic planning and strategy. So he's basically just going to become another one of Lawrence Stroll's yes men in a different hat.
Right. But I don't think it was ever, he was in that role permanently. I think he was just kind of like keeping the seat warm, because it didn't feel like a super committed hire when it happened, but maybe that's just my take on it. It kind of seemed like, oh, he'll be fine for now because we don't really care, but once we have things really cooking, he's out.
Yeah, I mean, and we've talked so much about next year's Aston Martin. It's the Newey car. And so now it's the Newey team. It's Aston Martin by Adrian Newey. And they're concentrating everything on this, you know, it's not that I'm calling it a gamble in a bad way, but you know, this is a big home run hit type hire in Newey that we're going to see if they're going to allow themselves to make it work.
Yeah. I don't know. It'll be interesting. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly am actually very curious to see how 2026 goes for Aston Martin, because I think they're just, I mean, Daddy Stroll is pumping so much money into it. But again, pause my thought process here. Daddy Stroll is pumping so much money into this team to make it good, to make it competitive, to make them win. But he won't replace his son as a driver.
I mean,
for dramatic effect. Why? Like, if you're really trying to get this team to be a number one team, maybe get someone who can be a number one driver.
I mean, but also remember in that first episode of that a couple seasons ago of Drive to Survive, when Lance Stroll got into his little bike accident and Lawrence Stroll got really emotional because he loves his son so much that sometimes
he's just blinded by fatherly love.
I really don't think he can see past it sometimes, all the time.
Which is fair. He's a. Can we say he's a good dad? He's a good dad.
He's a dad.
He's a dad. He's a supportive father.
He's
Let's say
giving
that.
his son everything that he has ever wanted, including a Formula One drive. So, but yeah, I mean, on it, like as we keep saying, the best thing Lawrence can ever do is tell Lance he needs to move on from Vroom cars.
But you know what? Maybe we're wrong, and maybe he just hasn't had a quality car. And once he has a Newey car, he'll be competitive. I mean, the same thing we could be said Zhou Guanyu. We said he's such a great driver. He's so good for the grid. He's so great for the sport. He's just never had the opportunity to have a good car, so therefore he is seen as like not a great driver. But maybe it's just the car. Maybe if we all had a Newey car, we would all be great drivers.
I don't know. I feel like Lance has always been mediocre and always coming in on his father's coattails. But
yeah, but has he ever had better than a mediocre car? I don't think so.
I mean, he was good enough in that Williams to score a podium his rookie year.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Anyway,
So other exciting movement news. Mick Schumacher, who we have been hoping and wanting to see back in F1, is actually joining and driving IndyCar next year. So he will start in the 2026 season. I'm happy to see him get a seat somewhere and, you know, continue within motorsport. I'm just a little sad and disappointed it's not in F1, but maybe this is good for him just to get back in a car more regularly, because endurance racing like isn't as consistent, I would say, as of a schedule as IndyCar or F1. And so hopefully this gets him some consistent driving and more looks for F1 for the future. I'm very hopeful he returns to F1, but that's just my take on it.
yeah, my thought was that at the very least, because there's so many different race series options that he could go to, and obviously he was an Alpine reserve driver, then he was in Alpine, or he wasn't an Alpine reserve driver, he's a Mercedes reserve driver, and then joined the Alpine WEC team. And endurance is so different from single seater, so I really like the idea of him getting into IndyCar. And you know, we can go back and forth of like how IndyCar translates to F1 or not. We'll see with Colton Herta over the next couple of years how that's really going to go. But this can either go well and he'll have a really good time in Indy, a good experience. He'll get a lot of the racing experience he didn't get as a young F1 driver, especially driving those really awful Haas cars. And this might be the key to getting back to Formula One, or he's just going to race out his career in IndyCar. Either could be a very good option for him.
Yeah. No, I'm just excited to see him back in a car, honestly.
Yeah.
I really, you know, he's a good kid. I think it's unfortunate how much pressure is put on him because of who his dad is.
Right.
And so, I mean, nepotism has its, you know, downfalls as well. Not to say he only got a car because of his dad, because he is very talented, but there's a lot of pressure there because of the last name. But hopefully IndyCar gives him, you know, a good start.
Yeah, so we'll definitely see. That's something to keep an eye on, especially in light of what Colton Herta is going to be doing with his his move from IndyCar to F2, the test driving he's going to be doing with Cadillac. So that'll be interesting to see as we go through the next couple of years. The podcast that only talks about the future.
That's us. Okay, so looking at Qatar, which it still throws me off that this is in the end of the season. Like, I don't know why I always think of Qatar as being at the beginning. I think because before they did the regionalization, this was always one of the first races, wasn't it?
No, it was earlier in the year. It was like in the Singapore range, and the problem with it is words, Kathryn, is that it's really hot there, and it was another one of those races where the drivers almost died because of the weather conditions. So they're like, once we get the regionalization to play in, then it'll move to, you know, end of November, and the drivers will feel like they want to die slightly less, which is why we are here now.
Yes, which makes sense because they had to move the World Cup. The World Cup couldn't be in the summer. They had to move it to
yes.
Qatar, and it was really, really hot, and they couldn't survive, and it was still like over 100 degrees Fahrenheit in November. So makes sense.
Yes. Yeah.
Checks out.
So there's that. Last year, of course, it was a sprint. I don't really remember a lot of this race weekend, mostly because last year in Vegas was when Max clinched the championship. So there was a lot less focus on it. And it was just kind of like, Well, now we got to talk about if McLaren or Ferrari is going to win the Constructors' Championship down the stretch. And the only, major highlight was that Lando was given a drive-through penalty, and it was the first time in a while that a driver had been given a drive-through penalty. And that's the only thing that comes to mind as like notable things that happened last year in Qatar.
Yeah, I think I had given up last season after Vegas when Max won.
Yeah, I mean, it was discussion over by then. Of course, this time discussion over will probably not be until after Abu Dhabi next week. But it was a sprint. It was an Oscar Lando George podium for the sprint, and then a Max Charles Oscar podium for the Grand Prix. Lando was running in P2 and then was like P10, P11 after the little drive through. I don't even remember what it was for. You can look it up because it definitely talked about it in last year's reaction.
Yes. Similar to years past, looking forward for this year's race, there is going to be a tire lap limit. So Pirelli will do this occasionally for races. This is the second time in, let's say, recent history they've done it in Qatar. So in 2023, they put an 18-lap limit on the tires because of excessive wear from the curbs. I believe in 2023, they redid all the curbs in Qatar, and it was like an issue. So they put a lap limit, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the problem with Qatar, and I believe we have an episode for this too, which will be linked above, is that Qatar is a MotoGP type track. It's a track for motorcycles that, because of the Qatari interest in motorsport, they're like, bring everyone else here. So I wouldn't be surprised if it was like there was some like under the table dealings to get this track rated for F1. I really wouldn't. So the curbs were the problem, which was causing excessive wear on the tires, and it was causing those problems early on in the race weekend. And Pirelli basically had to scramble and say, you can only do 18 laps. And everyone's like, are you kidding me? 18 laps is going to make this, what, a 5-stop? That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it really changed strategy, and it came kind of late. Like I want to say it came after P2 going into P3, which that gives you one like final running before qualifying to really think through your strategy. Also, the fact that you're only given so many tire pairings for the weekend, like it really at least they're announcing it early. We'll give them that.
Yeah, and it's 25 laps instead of 18.
Right, so it's going to be 25, which really makes a difference. But still, it's kind of annoying when teams plan for a strategy and then this is thrown into the ring to be another glitch, if you will.
Yeah, it's the continuing adventures of trying to force Formula One to fit in the constraints of this track, which, like I said, that's a whole other bag of cats. But it's 57 laps. That's a 2-stop. We have plenty of tracks that are 2-stops. Yeah, we had the Monaco mandatory 2-stop that didn't work, but this is going to be a little bit different. And I think that even with the mandatory pit stops in 2023, it wasn't a terrible race. At minimum, everyone will pit twice, and you won't see somebody like Kimi Antonelli going 47 laps on a set of tires, because everyone will have to stop by the time that tire gets to 25 laps. And it's the entire life of the tire. So you have a brand new set of slicks that come on, those will be 25 laps. If you have a set of used tires that were scrubbed, it could be 20 laps. It could be, 18 laps, just depending on how many laps those were used in practices, the one practice, in qualifying, in literally anything else, other than the formation lap and the lap to the grid.
Right. Wild.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And honestly, I think the bigger concern is that sprint weekends either have a good sprint race or a good Grand Prix, and not both. So I think that's more of what we're risking than it is, a mandatory 2-stop is going to break Formula One.
Wait, how long is the sprint race?
19 laps. It's safe.
I was like, that would make it so exciting if they had to pit.
That would have, but the tire constructions are so, I think that they're improved compared to 2023 and 2024, and these the mandatory tire restrictions are based on the 2024 tire performance when they did not have the tire limits, and there were more crashes.
Yeah. Well, we're all for safety here at the pod. Love a good safe race.
At least someone is.
Okay, so super big exciting thing going into the weekend though. All eyes are on Qatar because essentially Lando could clinch or shit the bed.
Yeah, I mean, can he clinch the World Drivers' Championship in Qatar? Yes. Will he? Probably not. Whether and this is whether Max does well or whether Oscar does well. Like, it can be either of them, it can be both of them. Obviously, it is more likely for Max to be the one who gets the better of Lando, just because that's how it's been looking lately. But yeah, it is definitely one of those, he can, but will he? Probably not.
No. If he wanted to, he would.
Just do more.
Okay, so with that, let's jump into our predictions, because again, we can speak ad nauseum about all the different million scenarios.
Yeah.
But we do have sprint race and normal race. So Kathryn and I will be picking all of the predictions for this weekend. So for the sprint, who is your pole sitter, Kathryn?
That's a great question. What did I do when I wrote them down? Shockingly, for once, I am picking Lando to have pole in the sprint.
Okay. So I have Max, which I feel like is also not a bad guess. I also, to no one's surprise, a lot of bias in my picks this weekend. Hoping Max does really well. With that being said, for my sprint podium, I have Max, George, Lando.
So do I.
Oh my god, stop. No way.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I was like throwing a curveball by having George in there, but you know.
I picked that as well. Yeah. And that was my same thought process, is the McLaren or the Mercedes are also going to be in this. It's really not just Max versus the McLarens. It's like we have the Mercedes too available, and then maybe a Ferrari if they get their heads out of their butts.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay, and then for P8 I have Carlos.
Okay. We are not the same there. I have Lewis.
Okay.
So it's either
a little high for Ferrari right now.
For Lewis, yes. I mean, this is very much optimistic. We will see if they get their crap together for qualifying or not, but it could. Oh, poor Lewis, and poor Fred Vasseur is just like damage control, and it's just ridiculous, honestly.
Okay, and then going into our race prediction, so still pole podium P10, because P10 is the last position you get points for the race, P8 for the sprint, which is why you pick P8 for the sprint. But for race pole, who do you have?
I have Max.
And I have Lando.
And you have Lando. So one of us will be right for the sprint and one of us will be right for the Grand Prix, unless George decides to be George.
I was just saying, unless George wakes up and chooses violence and just like takes everybody out.
We'll see.
Okay, and then for podium, who do you have for the race?
I did a Max, George, Charles podium.
Okay, I have Max, Kimi, Charles.
Ooh. So we will see which McLaren driver is gonna be in it.
What McLaren driver?
Mercedes driver. What Mercedes driver is gonna be in it?
I didn't say Oscar.
Oh God, no. Apparently,
Oscar. Are you kidding me?
Oh, I wish I could go back to picking Oscar, but Oscar just doesn't want to be picked and doesn't want to do anything. Oscar has us
picking George, so.
That really goes to show you just how far Oscar names, Kathryn. Wow, how far things have fallen ever since Oscar has been dealt his psychological damage by his team.
I know. I blame his team so much. It's not his fault. It's all McLaren. Like, this is stupid. He needs to get out of there.
Yeah.
Anyways, P10, who do you have, Kathryn?
So also very optimistic, and we talked about this at the end of our Vegas reaction episode, is can Yuki Tsunoda be of any help to Max Verstappen? And I'm picking Yuki for P10, which means no, but also means that he's going to be better than he was in Vegas. And I really do think that if we have the Yuki that we saw in the practice sessions, rather than qualifying in Grand Prix, there might be a chance. So I'm splitting the difference and putting him in P10.
Fair. And I'm hoping for a much better weekend for my man Alex Albon.
Oh, he deserves it.
You know, I just want these Williams kiddos to do well. I mean, they have. Compared to last year, compared to the last handful of years, they're doing so good.
Yeah.
They've really, cemented themselves in a solid P5, which is great. They're, leading the mid-pack, if you will. I guess.
They are the midfield.
They are the mid-pack. They're leading because they are. But yeah, hoping for a good weekend from Alex. Obviously, always hoping they get higher, but I feel like he's a pretty safe P10.
Yeah, they've had just such a run of bad luck lately, and it's so hard because we know how capable Carlos and Alex both are, and then to see, like, not that the car betrays them, but just sometimes they just get so unlucky, and it's just like we've seen glimpses of how good they can be. It's now up to the team to give them that more consistency, but we want it now instead of in a year or two because we're impatient.
But this makes me excited for next year. It really does.
Absolutely.
I feel like Carlos and Alex get along really well as teammates, and I feel like they haven't really necessarily been competing against each other just by nature of how the races are going, which to me, I think it's good that the team has a good foundation, and when you're not pitting them against each other constantly, because like they're truly, they aren't each other's competition this year, right?
Right.
They've just been like either Alex has been way up and Carlos is way down, or Carlos is way up and Alex is way down. So they haven't had to pit them against each other necessarily. I would argue to say they've been on different strategies for almost every single race. So it's nice that they're building this team structure foundation in kind of like a weird wonky year, and then next year they're going to take off.
Yeah, because they can get a ton of data by running the drivers on two different strategies that won't, you can't copy paste from year to year, but will still be helpful in a way that like you can't really afford if you're in, a Ferrari or a Mercedes or a McLaren or half of a Red Bull.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so overall for the weekend, Kathryn and I like to just do for funsies a big surprise and who is going to do a dumb. So Kathryn, what is your surprise for us for the weekend?
My surprise is going to be double points for VCARB. I think that we can continue seeing that consistency, and I just want good things for Isaac Hadjar.
I love it. Mine's not necessarily a surprise, but we're going with it anyways. I say Max just comes out and he's still in the hunt. He kills it, has a great weekend, and really puts the pressure on Lando. So,
yeah,
that would be a surprise.
That's similar to my dumb, which is that McLaren is going to double down on everything, and it's just going to continue imploding on them.
I have the same thing. I say Lando misses out on clinching in Qatar. McLaren there's too much pressure, they can't handle it, and it just blows up. So,
I mean, they're really on the verge of that, and they're really setting themselves up for the most embarrassing collapse since 2007, I believe, when also McLaren collapsed. Is what
due for a good collapse. So I'm here.
We're due. And also, I think they said that the last time a driver was 24 or more points out of the lead and came back to win in the final two races, it was Sebastian Vettel in one of Sebastian Vettel's 3 titles. I think it was the 2010 title. So
God bless him. But
we'll see.
Lando's no Sebastian Vettel.
No, he's not, but and Sebastian Vettel is saying that Max is better, and he keeps getting better. So it's anybody's game.
There's nothing I want more than for Max to come back and win the championship. Like, I cannot tell you. I never would have thought these words would come out of my mouth when we started doing this podcast, but all I want is for Max to win.
I know. Like,
all I want is for him to win.
And everyone wants that except for like the diehard McLaren fans. Like I think even the Piastri fans who see the writing on the wall are like, I want Max over Lando.
Yeah. And it's just a shame because if Oscar would have gotten the support that Lando's getting now when he needed it, when he was leading, when he was doing really, really well, this would be a completely different story.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, I think, the real tragedy that is, no matter who wins the championship, Oscar or Lando or Max, the real tragedy of the season is how Oscar was treated by his own team.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Yeah. But anyway.
I'm excited for this weekend. I don't love that it's a sprint weekend, but I am excited to see what happens just because there are driver champion, points implications. I want it to go down to Abu Dhabi. I really do. I don't want it to stop here. I want to go to the last race, all the drama, give it to me, but I'm excited to watch.
Yeah, it should be based on just the disqualifications and what happened after the Vegas race. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be a really important race for this end of the season. And Max said at the end of Vegas, even before the disqualifications were confirmed, though, I think the writing was on the wall. And I think everyone kind of I think Jos Verstappen said in the media the other day that Max knew that the disqualifications were going to come down before he left the track. And Max left the track basically immediately. So the writing was on the wall, and it's going to be a very impactful race no matter what happens.
I know. I'm so excited.
And Max said it's up to the car, and I really think that if he has a good car for 2 Grand Prix and a sprint, he's gonna win it.
Yeah, I mean, he'll still complain that his brakes are shit, but the car will be great.
Yeah, I mean, he always has to complain about something. It's like, it's the old Mercedes heyday of Lewis saying, Bono, my tires are gone, and then putting in 8 purple sectors.
Yeah, obsessed. All right, well, that is it for our Qatar preview episode. Our recap episode will be out on Monday. That is it. We have only 2 more of these left.
I know.
Thanks for going off track with us, guys.